Yeah, I will be through by 7:45.
I'm fine, I'm giving you.
No, I will be.
And Jeff is
Where are you?
Oh, I'm fine.
Yeah, thanks.
Not in uniform.
Remember? Yeah.
Steve, how are we doing?
I'm well, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Good, how are you?
My house? Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I forgot that, Rich was on, so I kinda listened to him.
Did you cut back on, John?
Sorry about that.
We're just getting raked up. We're just getting raked up.
I've never seen so much.
I'll tell you.
So quickly.
Yes.
Literally just like,
Oh, okay. Okay.
Seems like it's 40 minutes.
Okay. Just by Facebook.
They're about the same age, aren't they?
No, this isn't periodically, it's just, this was kind of an odd one for me, so. It was in the back of my mind, and just.
No problem at all. Put that in my phone.
If anybody has any public comment tonight,
If you send them to me and I miss them,
please sign up for me.
I did.
So,
I have my phone
last
off.
year.
Like,
Okay.
remind me.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Of course I am. It's a big project, you gotta be there, right? Everything's going
Glad you're not making us spend too much money on
3 minutes.
Well, what I saw, I didn't like.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief.
I'm well, sir, how are you?
Very good. I think they'll probably be done tomorrow or Thursday.
Am I supposed to say we should go for the public hearing? I did not see it earlier.
A big one.
Phone book. You're kidding me. I think somebody's complaining about the chairs again, Diane.
I think it would be geriatric shrinking on my part.
So we're also working on 620 on the other side, with garbage trucks. Yeah, they're gone, and they have to, with their 15 No, the trucks are gone. Yeah. But, Zach, because we initiated the case during the one part of the year, he gave until April 15th to get all this cleaned up.
Okay, it is 7 o'clock. Welcome everybody. It's April 8th, 2019. 7 o'clock. This is our regular scheduled city council meeting. Everybody did sign up that wanted to speak tonight. Can I have roll call, please?
Michael Hellman.
Here.
Scott Pennell, Tracy Stokes. Here. Bob Boland.
Here.
John Curtis. Jason Siegel.
Here.
And if you'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. We have an agenda in front of us tonight. I need a motion, please.
I'll move to approve the regular meeting agenda for April 8th, 2019.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second on the table. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. And do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of March 25th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Motion is second. Discussion. Anybody find anything that is not true and correct on our minutes? All right. Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion
I
passes.
abstain, I wasn't here.
John Curtis staying, still have a quorum, so we'll be fine. Thanks, John. And we will move down to the bills. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve bills to April 8th, 2018.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Page 1, second item to Ace Equipment and Supply, it says spreader, 1060.
That was a little salt spreader that was put on the component.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, we approved that, some time ago.
okay.
Service for the Greenway trails and that stuff.
Excellent.
That was it. Anybody else? Hearing none, I need roll call, please.
Mike Mahoney?
Yes.
Scott Canal, Tracy Stokes?
Yes.
Bob Boland?
Yes.
John Curtis? Jason Siegel?
Yes.
Alright, motion passes. We will move to unscheduled public comment. First I have Donna Klein. Come on up, Donna.
Hi. It's that time of year, but it's a little late. We've already had our mayors and commissioners dinner, so I printed pictures.
It was last night, another wonderful event. Still some outstanding kids, and just to hear some of their accomplishments is always satisfying.
Idaho Springs had 3 of those kids who are doing excellent. They're all amazing, every year. Love doing this. So I came to ask for a contribution to our Mayors and Commissioners Fund to help with the scholarships. I think out of this year we'll probably get a couple of them. We had a couple of seniors last year, so I'm expecting this summer that those will come forward and want their scholarships. And then we had 2, is it juniors? Juniors this year. So my fund needs some boost. I really appreciate you guys. And I'm sorry that I did not get here before the dinner. Due to some circumstances, my life's been a little chaotic at work. It's okay, it's smoothing out.
So you're here to ask for
A contribution to the mayors and commissioners.
for next year. We pretty much have that as one of our line items.
I know, but
The same amount is good?
Good,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
I
We
just
will
don't ever want you to think I take you guys for granted. You're always
Thank
so
you.
very generous with us. And I just never wanted to appear that I just expect.
No, thank you very much for that, and giving us plenty of notice. So we will definitely put that in through our file for next year's budget, and thank you for coming to us. And again, Donna, as I said last night, great job. You always do a great job putting it together, and
It's fun.
and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Donna.
All right, Arthur, come on up. If you just state your name and your address. Arthur
Campanelli, 637 Pike Slope Road. Just a few quick comments. First of all, I want to come here and thank the police department. They patrol our area quite well, and it's always noticed and appreciated. And I wanted to get that out because I'm not too sure you hear that very often, and so I just thought it was something that I should say on behalf of myself and my family, and I believe many of my neighbors. Secondly, although I'm probably 2 days too early, but I really appreciate the snow removal as well. And this year we had a lot of snow, didn't know where to put it all, but it was excellent. And then also, I'm understanding we're going to pay parking. Is that a tourism? Okay. My question is, for the funds that the city's going to get from this independent company, are you going to create a second parking? Are you going to create a parking fund separate from the general fund?
So I'll just briefly tell right now, as you know, this is going to be a trial. This is going to be a pilot program. And yes, what the intentions are, what we discussed with council, is any revenues received from the city were put into the area that we have slated as the area for payment,
But
which is mostly the downtown area.
Okay,
at
so
this
it would be
point.
within the general fund, not a separate parking fund.
We would, and this would be up to council, but I can see us creating a separate fund that would be restricted and dedicated just to one certain thing.
Okay,
Yes.
because I understand somewhere down the line you wanna put in a parking, structure, possibly, I don't know if that's still on the table or not.
And that's the whole reason for us doing this parking management plan, to see if we need a parking structure.
Right.
So,
You-
but that could be part of, that could be
Yeah.
part of, the whole plan,
Yeah,
yes.
I think you do, but I don't think it has to be too elaborate. That's just my personal opinion from my experience. Also, I'd like to talk about the construction on Soda Creek Road. We all know it's frustrating and it's difficult, and I'm not here to talk about that, although I do have to hold my hat off to the guys that do the flat, to do it, and they take it in their own hands, and sometimes the weight is really frustrating, and sometimes it's not, and I understand it's a complex thing. They seem to be trying to maintain the road a little better when they're not there, so you don't break an axle or whatever. But I am hopeful that for future reference, that maybe the city road closures, what I've been doing, because I go there, quite often, 3 days a week I go to work, the 16 cars waiting for, going both ways. And I think if, in the future, when we do a traffic study, it seems like possibly, the flow might be smoother, but when you see that there's just one burp in the process, how fast cars can back up. And I'm referring to that for future reference if it comes to the point where, I'm just bringing that up for future reference.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and your comments.
And there will be an end to it.
Okay, we're gonna move down to the planning and community development, and Alan's staff report.
Good evening, Council. Alan Tiefenbach, Community Development Planner. This is going to fall into the guise of how quickly can I probably do this, because this is very simple. So this, let's see if I can put the little, can everybody see the little hand on the screen, or do you want me to get the laser pointer?
I can see.
I can see.
Okay, so here is 23rd, here is Virginia Street, here is the Argo, here is that wastewater treatment facility by the state and through the EPA. Here is the subject property, these red lots. This subject property is zoned residential 2, as is this property. Residential 2 does not allow apartments, which is what is on this property. In fact, residential 2 has never allowed apartments, so I'm not exactly sure why this was ever rezoned to residential 2. Residential 3 allows apartments. After the update to the land development regulation, which again did not change any of the uses in R2, one of the things that I was going to eventually do is to start cleaning up all the zoning in the city. I mean, it's a big undertaking, it's controversial. You might have gotten a letter about a rezoning I'm looking at over on the historic district, separate topic, but I was eventually going to do a rezoning of all the properties, rezoning of some of the funkier zoning in the city. This was one of the areas that I was going to approach, and before I got to that, the applicant came to me and started talking to me about some possible development on this property. Now, I'm not going to speak to whether or not any development can occur. That's a whole nother ball of wax that may or may not occur. But while the applicant was in my office, I said, regardless of what you do, whether you do or don't develop it, you need to rezone this properly, because if you don't, when you go through financing, if you try to sell the property, if anything happens you need to rebuild, you're not going to be able to do that because it's zoned residential 3. So that properties, instead of all of them, because the applicant came in before I had time to approach everybody, this one's not being done, although it should be. This is an out-of-state owner, and again, this basically was led forward by the applicant. The one thing that you should know is this little piece of property here is owned by the city. And when I did the ordinance for this, I failed to put that in the legal description. So we are only rezoning these tonight, and then in May, at the end of May, you're going to get a teeny little rezoning to fix that one, because I'm having to go through all the notification requirements. So it was my bad, it was a miss. We're going to fix that. Eventually, I would like all of these apartments to be rezoned.
So you're saying the other lot is a different owner that's out of state?
These properties here are a different owner that's out of state. This property here is owned by us. Right. The city owns this, so we're going to rezone this next because I missed it.
Okay.
And then as you go through with your rezoning of everything, you will approach the owners of the other parcel and.
It's one of those things that's not all the way on the top of my list. It's something eventually I was going to do. It's hard to believe, but I've actually got some other things going on. So this was kind of lower on my priority list.
Okay.
But because somebody came in and talked to me, I'm like, well, fine, let's go ahead and do this since you're going to sign the application anyway.
So right
And
now,
we didn't charge them for this rezoning because it was kind of our bad that this was rezoned wrong to begin with.
So essentially, right now, the discussion is only involving the areas outlined in red.
Correct.
Okay.
Good question. I'm trying to discern if there is no structure on the city property, is there? I don't know what I'm looking at
I don't know. I don't have a
Okay.
survey there.
there. Okay.
I'm not positive because I don't have a survey.
So they have an encroachment.
Well, it's a very funky arrangement. I think it's obvious because you see it right away is usually not zoned.
When was it rezoned? Originally?
Probably 70s. I
Probably
don't
earlier
know.
than that.
Later.
Later.
Later
Yeah,
than
it was
70s,
later.
yeah.
I believe the previous owner of the Argo owned those in the 80s, if I recall.
I don't know.
Yeah, and
And maybe that's why it was zoned like that.
I know that the planning commission all kind of looked at each other and said, "Why did we zone this that?" So at least a
Yeah.
few of them, I think Cindy Olson and Bill were on board at the time, and
But those changes go back decades.
Yeah, I think it
to
made
the
it
80s
pretty
at least.
before
It makes you feel any better if this isn't that unusual. There's every city has got funky zoning that doesn't allow things. So
Okay.
this is basically just going to allow them to have an apartment complex.
So that will bring us to any questions for Alan? So now that will bring us down to our public hearing, the second reading. So at this time, we will come out of our regular meeting and we will start this hearing. This hearing will come to order. This is a public hearing before the City Council of the City of Idaho Springs on ordinance number 7, series 2019. An ordinance rezoning property known as 2300 through 2310 Virginia Street within the City of Idaho Springs from residential 2, R2 to residential 3, R3, and amending the official zoning map of the city to reflect such action. If there's anyone in the audience, please sign up for testimony. This order of this hearing will be as follows: staff introduction and testimony. Applicant will be sworn in and giving testimony, and then any public testimony. Now declare this hearing open at 7:17. Staff?
Do you want me to go through it again?
So you guys
Is
need
there a
to
reason
hear
why his speech just now wouldn't that have been part of the public hearing?
I don't know. It was
That's just how it is.
it just had was lined out on here, and I'm just going by the agenda. Okay, applicant, which is Jeff Stormont-Tony. Come on up. You have to be sworn in by the city clerk.
You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. So I don't know how much you know about the rezoning. It sounds like you're more of the potential developer to help you.
Yeah, I'm actually just, Dan Dalps owns the property. And like Alan said, there's no plan right now to do anything with it. We were just kind of talking about it, and when it came up, it was zoned incorrectly, so we wanted to make sure that Alan said it doesn't make any sense not to have a proper zoning for it.
Okay. All right. Very good. Anybody have any questions for Jeff?
Are you property owner or
No, I'm actually just his representative.
representative
Yeah.
Dan?
I'm
Okay.
consulting him with the property on some things that he might or may not do with it. Like Alan said, there's a lot of other stuff that needs to happen before we can even figure out if there's
Right.
anything we can do with the property.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay.
All right, thanks.
We didn't have anybody signed up for public testimony, so this hearing is now declared closed. It is 7:19, and we'll take this back into our council meeting and discussion among council. I believe that it was self-explanatory of why it needs to happen and why it doesn't make any sense, so, it's just doing more cleanup of what we've been doing, so good job, Alan.
The council will be happy that under our new laptop and stuff that we have now can put the GIS up on the screen.
And
Nice.
faster.
So we can play with it in the city council. Nice.
Nice. Good
Okay,
job.
do I have a motion?
Move to approve ordinance number 7, series 2019, an ordinance rezoning property known as 2300 to 2310 Virginia Street within the city of Idaho Springs from residential 2, R2 to residential 3, R3, and amending the official zoning map of the city to reflect such action.
Do I have a second? Motion and a second, John Curtis is a second. All right, any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Mike McCollum?
Yes.
Dr. Mel, Casey Stokes?
Yes.
Bob Fuller?
Yes.
John Curtis?
Yes.
Jason Segel?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right. Andy, city administrator, what do you have for us?
Mayor and council, my report is before you with no request for action.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Andy?
What's the, can you tell me about this meeting with Tesla?
It was with Alan,
come and
they
go.
called
Alan actually attended it, but go ahead.
Tesla is proposing to put 8 charging stations in the come and go lot. It would require like I said, the wiring up of these 8 stations. There's probably going to be a couple of these transformers, these green boxes that would be located on the land.
So like on their, in their parking, like right in front of the store there?
No, behind it.
In the lot. To
behind.
in the
right.
lot to the
That's right.
to the east.
Okay, yeah.
Went back and forth with this one, but technically these are new structures that are being in place.
Right.
Because they're new structures and because they're highly visible, I told them I wasn't comfortable with approving it administratively.
Right.
So it's going to be a very simple site plan. A very simple final development plan, which would be a site plan, architectural elevations, and landscaping plan. Could get to you relatively quickly, but I thought because of the visibility of this, that the council should review this and at least offer their feedback if they need to. So you should be seeing that in June. It's good. They can't make May because it's just a couple of weeks off, so you'll see it in June.
Okay.
Just kind of a sidebar question, I assume this is a profit-making enterprise between
it's a
Tesla
profit.
and Come and Go.
Yeah, they're working on some. The thing I'm not all the way there with is they're very proprietary.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if other cars are going to be able to park in these 8 spaces or if they're just going to be 8 spaces that are sitting open. There's a long and twisted relationship between whether that's a public parking lot or not. It's really actually probably not, although it was sort of assumed that it was for a long time.
No, that's what I thought when Come and Go did that. The west side of that parking lot was theirs, and they said the east side was for public parking.
The problem
that
is,
was
Joe, we can't find any
we can't
documentation
prove-
on it.
The only thing we can
going
find.
through that.
We sold it to them. It's all owned by Come and Go.
So if there's some,
For
I
sure.
mean,
The
there
whole
could be a discussion or a recording of the minutes, but John and I have gone through everything. What we found was Cater make a comment in one, and in their site plan at the time, it showed it.
Building right there. Part of the property that was not in Come and Go's typical plan for that, and they tried to sell it to a third party.
They were going to build. They said they were going to eventually build another building there. I wouldn't hold my breath on that.
Yeah, okay, I had not heard that.
The way that it was originally sold to the city council, so if you look at that wall on the Come and Go on the eastern side, that wall would not meet our architectural requirements.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying yay or nay, okay, but when this was sold to the council, the council was told that phase 1 of the project would be the Come and Go, and then eventually phase 2 would be a mixed-use building there. So the city or the planner did not require them to have to meet design standards and just let them put some landscaping in front of it with this idea that it was
too small. But I can tell you one thing that thrilled us at the time is that they landscaped it. Grass and trees. That was pretty unusual.
And that's part of the reason I thought that this final development plan should come in front of the council, because what you're going to see is a couple of those green transformer boxes on that landscaping area, and I've told them they're going to have to do some landscaping to try to screen it. It'll be obviously your final decision on whether or not you like it.
So it was a vast improvement over from the concrete and mud before.
All right, thanks, Alan. Any more questions for Andy? All right, Diane?
Mayor and Council, I have my staff report for your review with no request for action.
Any questions for Diane? Nope. All right, good job. Chief?
Mayor and council, I'll refer you to my staff report. I have no requests for action.
Any questions for Chief? How's our new Sarge working out?
He's working out great.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I actually took some days off.
How about that?
Yeah.
You have to teach me how to do that. All right, thanks, Chief. Keep up the good work. Keep everybody safe out there. Tell us about the high-speed chase, just for giggles.
Oh, okay. High-speed chase started in Dillon. State troopers got behind a vehicle for whatever reason. The moving violation that ran the plate determined it was stolen. So that's when the chase was on. Proceeded through Clear Creek County, through Georgetown. The county got involved. Georgetown got involved. We were on the periphery. We set up with stop sticks. Sawyer and Collins were down around the 239. He evaded those. I was posted on the east end of the tunnel, and right when he came in the tunnel, he changed lanes. He went from the express lane to the center lane. So I never got to pitch mine. He got up to the 245 and the vehicle wrecked out. One of the occupants remained in the vehicle. The driver ran across the interstate, ran down the hill to 40, crossed the road, and collapsed in someone's yard, one of the 2 yards that are up there, where he was apprehended. So no officers were injured. There was minor damage to 2 of the county cars, and we got a flat tire.
So, in an instance of like stuff like that, who's responsible for paying for the damage to the vehicles?
Well, theoretically, I mean, they could be assessed the repairs of the vehicle, but the suspects, there were outstanding warrants, violation of protection order, and stolen car. Yeah. So,
and they actually came in on 240 and came down.
They did. They got off at the 241. They came through a portion town down Colorado, looped back around, and went back on Minor. I'm not sure where on Minor, and they got back on the interstate. The cars did slow down. He didn't slow down, but the patrol cars did slow down. But they're still going pretty fast. The fact that people heard the sirens and stayed inside, those were the kinds of comments I got. So, all's well that ends well. We don't like pursuits. We don't encourage our guys to do pursuits, but this was a case where the pursuit was justified.
Right.
All right.
Thanks, Chief.
It's a good thing nobody got hurt.
All right, Public Works, John.
Mayor and council, I refer my staff report with no request for action.
Right. Any questions for John?
Do you know when they're going to schedule? Do they have a paving date scheduled yet for East Minor?
One has not been scheduled.
Okay.
As you've seen, they have started removing some of the old sub bays and putting it back.
Yeah, I saw that. So on 25th, I had seen them pour and tear up and remove and re-pour that whole freaking line. Like, what's going on there? What are they doing?
Complaints from owners of those houses and garages that it wasn't done properly and they couldn't access their garage. Just that type of thing.
Yeah. So, because I'm curious to know if the issues that may have been there before, because I've been having a hard time getting the trash to come to my house. They haven't picked up my trash in 2 weeks because they say they can't get in from either direction. Now last week I think it was because they were working on 27th. That's how the truck usually comes in, is through 27th. But I guess I was just trying to figure out like what was going on with all the curb line, because it was like poured and it was like pretty jagged, and now it's all straight and it looks nice. And I'm hoping that the trash truck can get through. But in regards to the construction crew, are they, is anybody communicating with them in regards to making sure that they're working to try to help the trash trucks get through in those areas?
I can just say that they've been told numerous times.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I see the trash trucks look down the street and just leave.
Yeah, I've
They
seen
don't
that
even
too.
do that. They
I've
don't
seen
even
that too.
ask or even attempt, but
Yeah.
most of the time if the guys pull up, they will accommodate those guys getting in there to
Okay.
do that.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you.
Got any other questions for John? Dan? Oh.
He did have one thing, he wanted us to approve donating the WTP.
No,
Oh, that's right.
That's Dan.
That's
Oh,
Dan.
that's
That's
Dan.
Dan.
Wow, cold medicine. Apologies.
All right, Dan, you're up.
Mayor and council are approving my report with.
Treatment plants, 1720D turbidimeter to.
What's that?
They still allowed these?
Apparently, we got rid of them as soon as we could.
No, I
They don't
mean,
make parts for
ABCs
them.
are out.
Oh.
But, you know, I didn't know,
They're obsolete. I mean, there's no support for them. There's no
yeah,
parts for them. So that's kind of what they're looking for, is just replacement
right,
parts.
that's what I was getting at, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to contribute to a smaller community, because
We've
had the
been
same
there.
issue, and we've been
Yeah.
there, and we were
Right.
fortunate enough to be able to get some use for it.
Great.
Okay, we got the motion in the second, and roll call.
Michael Helmy?
Yes.
Scott Pennell, Tracy Stokes?
Yes.
Bob Boland?
Yes.
John Curtis?
Yes.
Jason Siegel?
Yes.
Right, committee reports.
I have one, flowers. Tracy and John Kane and myself, the committee of three that been doing the flowers. And John has, no surprise, Tracy, I guess, done the heavy lifting in terms of talking to most of the greenhouses and so on. We did order from Calabrese, which is a greenhouse we've gone to in previous years, and for a number of reasons fell away from them, but another branch of the family has taken over, and they seem to be the only flowers we've added. We do lots of flowers for downtown and certainly the Citizen Park, but we did add flowers for the two ore cars around at the roundabout. The delivery for the flowers, we talked to Calabrese. They're willing, depending on the weather, to do it the week prior to the Memorial Day weekend, which we'd like to have the flowers out if possible. But
It's
if
been
that,
done.
yeah, depending,
It's been done
we have
before.
the backup for the week after that as well.
Okay, I'm just a little, we've had frost and.
Oh, yeah,
That
we're very
weekend,
aware of that,
they-
yeah.
yeah.
So they're willing to let that slip at no charge or anything.
Okay.
And, so that's the main thing. But, Mike, you asked about, possible, flowers hanging baskets, I assume, for some of the light poles in the east end of town, and quite frankly, the committee never considered that. Never got on my radar, and I don't think it did Tracy's or John's either.
It was in the notes that maybe we could get some of the baskets ahead, even if they're not quite done, just to have them up for Memorial Day festivities.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
it may
I'm
be,
aware.
it may involve going to physically get them, so we don't have them incurred.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, but this is a large number of new baskets that Mike was asking me about for the new light
For
poles.
the new light poles.
Along Colorado Boulevard.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, it wasn't on your radar any more than mine. He just asked me about it at the work session a few minutes ago. So we did not consider that, and we do
But you have
some
some money
budget
in-
left.
Well, let's look at it, let's get a price on it. and see if
Okay,
we
so
can-
we do have budget
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah. And,
What do we know about those light pole ratings and compared to all the problems that we've previously had?
Well, I mean, I can't imagine those poles have any issues.
I'm sure that those are rated better than the ones downtown.
You could
And
probably hang,
Because they're-
you could probably hang a.
They're
picture
not,
from
those
that.
aren't pedestrian lights, those are street lights, so.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they already have hooks on them, or we have to?
No, we would have to, we'd have to.
We'd have
get
to have
those.
the apparatus
Yeah.
from scratch.
Hey, you can hang a Buick from those lights.
Okay, so maybe we can get together and do a drive, Bob,
Yeah.
like soon, and see if there's anything that can be done.
Yeah, really quickly. Yeah, because we'll obviously
Like
need to
this
get
week,
together with
over the weekend
greenhouse.
or something, yeah.
Just in terms of the hooks, is, John, maybe we need to look at some of your catalogs, or they're all, I think we had around 1,500 left out of a budget of 8,000, I believe, wasn't it, this year for flowers?
Mhm.
And, I don't think that will go very far buying books.
Yeah, no, that's the problem, is the hanging is way more important,
Yeah.
way more expensive, I'm gonna just guess, than the flowers. How many?
I have no idea how many lights are out there.
Well, the hanging hardware would theoretically be a, one-time expense.
Yes, and probably should not
Theoretically.
come out of our flower, but.
And once they go up, they're not coming down. The flowers would come down, but you leave the hooks up there, right?
Do we still have wreaths hanging up?
Not after
Like a week
Christmas.
ago? Okay, I
Not
was
after
gonna say.
Christmas.
Right. It does feel like Christmas, but.
Hey, we'll pursue.
This position. So we need to do a motion to go ahead and do our public outreach for.
Maybe 60.
Okay, check that for us. That was 90, but.
And what happens if we don't fill it within 60 days?
Yeah, special
Just
election.
It's ugly.
Special election.
And unfortunately, it really over into that, then we wouldn't have to do a special election, we could wait till the election. But I think that
We have to-
there's too much gap.
Yeah.
So. Okay. All right, council, anything else? Hearing none, it is 7:37.
Do a voice,
Yes.
Bob Boland?
Yes.
John Curtis?
Yes.
Jason Segel?
Yes.
It is 7:37, meeting adjourned.
Virginia?
Don't forget the suspects on the.
Yeah, I'll have to see the check out before I go.
What's that?
Sure. Yeah, and
Yeah.